Joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Unfortunately, you and I are speaking now at a time when there has been a surge of hate crimes and abusive incidents aimed at people of Asian descent. You have spoken out over the years, but this seems like this has kind of pushed you into the forefront, into a role that you previously had not. You hadn't run away from it, but it seems like you've been really more outspoken of late. I wonder why that is. Is that something you've chosen, or you think that's just something that's chosen you?
I think it's just the evolution of who I am, and to be honest, I did run from it. When we last spoke, I didn't want to be known as the token Asian or the Asian on the basketball court. I wanted to be respected as a great basketball player, period, end of sentence. And so after I went through insanity, there's a lot of things that had happened, and I didn't understand what was happening at the time. I couldn't process everything with how fast it was coming. I couldn't understand and articulate the underlying issues that we have seen, whether it's the model minority or the bamboo ceiling or all these different things about how Asian Americans and Asians in general have kind of just become whatever the people in power have kind of wanted us to become, and to stay silent over certain issues and to be, good immigrants in other situations. And so what I've kind of seen is through the education process of my experiences and just life, that, man, there's a lot of things that I didn't understand when I last spoke to you, and I definitely didn't understand during the insanity, during that stretch of time. And so I think it's just my evolution to be able to say, like, hey, me being 32 years old towards the tail end of my career, it's not about me as a basketball player as much or anything. It's, you think about, okay, what do you want to do? Every person kind of gets to that point where at some point it becomes about the next generation, right? Or it should become about the next generation, because we've had so many people come before us that have allowed us to live the life that we're living today. And so for me, it's understanding, okay, my niece, my nephew, my future kids, what kind of environment, what kind of society will they be growing up in, and how can I contribute to that? And that's kind of the evolution of it.
You've been in the news recently because you shared that during a game you're currently playing with the G League, and that somebody called you what is clearly intended as a slur. Somebody yelled, coronavirus at you. Or maybe they said this under their breath in a way. Tell us how you chose to deal with this. First of all, you did disclose this to the league, but you haven't disclosed the name of the person who said this to you. Tell us a little bit more about how you chose to deal with this and why.
At first I wrestled a lot with whether to say anything about it or not, and kind of sat on it for a week or so and kind of chatted with my family and my friends. And we decided to talk about it in relation to everything else that has been going on. And again, to me, it's not about what I experienced, because that is, nothing compared to what we're seeing right now, which we see people getting spit on, people getting robbed, people getting assaulted. We see people getting killed, burned, stabbed. We're seeing all of that all the time. We're seeing other people who come to the defense of other Asian Americans or other Asians, and then they get assaulted or they get injured. And so we're seeing a lot of stuff right now, and that is the real issue that I wanted to bring awareness around. And me in discussing my own experience was not to compare what other people are going to, but to say that nobody is immune to this, and that we're all, as Asian Americans, we're all hurting and we're all being, targeted. The reason why I didn't want to talk about who it was or go into the specifics of that is because kind of the overarching principle, or the bedrock, the foundation of what I'm trying to say, is that we need to have love and empathy and compassion for each other. And if I come out and try to take somebody down or burn somebody or get quote unquote justice or what I feel like is right, and by hurting somebody else, I don't think that builds on what I'm trying to do. I think that's a hypocritical message. And so, for me, it's really about, hey, how can we educate more people about what's going on, and then how we can change to be better, and how we can stop this violence. And that's really the heart of what I'm trying to say.
I do have to say, though, that it's my recollection that this is not the first time you've experienced this. I mean, this unfortunately has been part of your experience in basketball. The coronavirus thing is new, but the experience of being targeted because of your ethnicity is not new. So what I'm asking you is, as a kid, obviously a lot of this stuff is thrown at you. How did you understand it then? And do you think something's changed to where you think just people in general, and you in particular, aren't just willing to tolerate it anymore?
I do. I agree. I think so. Right. Like, I think growing up, and that's the thing. One of the things about the model minority, you know, they often say like, oh, okay, don't be the tallest weed because the tallest weed's going to get cut. Like, what does that mean? It just means don't stand out. Right. And so, you know, when people say stuff to you, it's like, all right, well, put your head down, work harder, be better, and hope that it produces some type of result. So for me personally, you know, to answer your question very specifically, is when I was young, it was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to let my game speak, and I'm going to play better than you, but I won't talk back. And I'm going to win the game, and I'm going to walk off the court and be very polite. Now it's more like, oh, you said something to me, it's cool. Like, I'm still going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to turn it into something where I'm more focused, I play better and all of that, and I try to win the game. At the same time, like, I'm not as afraid to talk about it anymore. I'm not as afraid to speak out about it, because that's what we need. And I think what we're seeing is people are getting fed up. I'm getting fed up. Everyone's getting fed up. And so I agree in what you're saying is, hey, the experience has changed. Society has changed. The social climate has changed. And we need to be more vocal. We need to stand up, and we need to start listening more and learning more from each other.
I think at one point you said you were playing and it got to be too much. I think you were in college at the time, and I think one of your coaches who had played at Duke, who's African-American, that you were able to talk about this. Do you remember anything he told you?
Yeah, I do. I remember him telling me, hey, look, I was playing. When I was playing, I was sitting on the sidewalk eating my food in an away game, and cars drove by and they were throwing stuff at me. I remember being called the N-word, and I remember, seeing people look at me with like bloodshot eyes, like malicious, like because of my skin color. And that's when I was just like, Coach Kenny Blakeney is his name. He's actually now the head coach at Howard, which is awesome. Doing historic things there. But, and that's when he taught me, hey, never let somebody get you outside of yourself. Because when I was called that game, I was called repeatedly, and the refs had heard it and didn't do anything. And the opposing players were saying that to me. And I just ended up self-combusting, and I played terrible, and I was out of control and all that. And that's when I had learned, like, I can't let what they meant to hurt me become even more of a crutch for myself by hurting myself. And so that's what that was one of the experiences that was really a turning point in my life.